And we need our secretary.
There she is. There she is, James. Oh, James.
Are we ready for roll? Ready for roll call. All right, Ms. Shatmeyer?
Here.
Mr. Sullivan?
Here.
Ms. Cadmus?
Here.
Mr. Parker? Ms. Smith?
Here.
And Mr. Walker?
Here.
Mr. Knudsen?
Here.
Ms. Harris?
Here.
Ms. Shoemaker? Mr. Shoemaker, sorry.
She and then he
The beard gives it away.
across the river.
Sounds like you got promoted.
Yes. Well, we didn't think so.
Okay. So, can we say the Pledge of Allegiance? Tim, would you like to lead us?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first item is the consent agenda, and we have the minutes, the July retirement report, and
Madam
monthly.
Chair, public comment.
Oh, okay,
Sorry.
sorry. Is there any public comment? And Kathy, I would like to give you the opportunity to tell us something about yourself.
Oh, we know.
Some of them know, yes. Okay. Well, I came from Midwest in Kansas, and I studied accounting, so I worked as a CPA for the first 10 or 12 years of my career, and then somebody talked me into teaching. And I had children, and being a school teacher, I taught at, the first full-time job was at the University of Oklahoma, and so we have talked a lot about Norman and reminisced, and he even reminded me the name of the building that I worked in yesterday, so now I remember. But anyway, so I taught full-time in accounting, and then somebody persuaded me to get into administration, and then I moved around the country, different places, and ended up here at Mendocino College in 2003, I think. And I served here as president of Mendocino College for 7 years, and then got married and moved up to Eureka and served as president of College of the Redwoods for 3 years, and then retired about 2 years ago. And we decided to move back down here to Yukon. And so my husband and I retired here, and I told people like Sherry that for the first 2 years of retirement I wanted to do nothing. So I did that for 2 years, and now I'm ready to serve a little bit.
Well, we're so overjoyed that you joined us
Well,
as
thank you.
new trustee.
I appreciate it, thank you.
Welcome.
I'm glad to be here.
Okay. Okay, so you'll have to bear with me because I'm an apprentice chair. I don't usually do this. I'm filling in for Dan Jardy. So the first item is the consent agenda, and
Madam Chair, I move approval of the consent agenda.
oh, second.
I'll second it.
Okay. Okay, and the second item.
We need to vote.
Oh. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
I like the way you laid it out, but I can't open it right now for some reason. I opened it the other day, but it's dark instead of green, black instead of green.
It's moving a little slow this time. Do you think it's just a download issue?
Everything is green that I can.
If I may, Madam Chair.
That's black.
Yes.
Tim, is that, you're referring specifically to the retirement report?
Yes.
Okay, I wanted to make sure that I understood. And that's, we started that with July, the beginning of the fiscal year, so we'll be
Yeah.
following that through. Kind of designed it based on, with a similar kind of feel as our monthly financial reports.
Mhm.
So we'll be carrying that through.
Yeah, I like the way you did it.
Okay.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is discussion and possible action regarding investment matters. First, the quarterly investment report.
Great. Robert.
Nice to meet you. My name's Greg DeForest. I'm a general consultant at Callan, and I've been at Callan for about 19 years. And I've been working with Mendocino, with Alina, you can come up,
Sorry,
for
volunteer.
about 7 years, I believe. I think it's about 7 years. So today we're going to, thanks Richard, go over a performance report. And that's all we have on the agenda today. But rest assured, over the last year, we've done a lot of other work with the plan. We started off with a big asset allocation study that determined broad asset allocation. We went through each asset class and decided how it should be structured. We did some manager searches. And when you look at the report today, you'll see that you are in the midst of implementing the last few investment manager changes we've made. And there's really just one or two outstanding switches to make. So we've done a lot of work over the last 12 months. Today's kind of a much easier lift than what we've done over the last few meetings when I've been up here with Alina. So to get into the performance, a few high-level comments is that for the quarter and for the year, returns are very robust and frankly higher than what we had predicted. So returns are very good. And on top of that, active managers have done really well. So your fiscal year ended in June, and this report covers that time period. Your returns are going to look really good. We can't bank on these returns or expect them to repeat at all, because in my assessment at least, valuations are full. And you shouldn't expect the markets to continue to go up like they have. It's unusual that it's a tough environment right now to allocate assets because valuations are full. Volatility is very, very low, and there seems to be a lot of things going on in the world.
Yeah, you think?
That could and should lead to higher volatility, but they haven't. Now, even with concerns about geopolitical risk, the U.S. economy actually is looking okay. We're slogging along still at that 2% growth rate. We're not to that 3% that everyone wants. Inflation remains positive but moderate, so we're at a little over 1.5% inflation. And everyone would like to see that closer to 2. And the Federal Reserve notably wants it at 2, but we're not quite there yet. And that's unusual because 8 years into an economic cycle, 8 years into positive growth, it's one of the largest expansions we've ever had, and it's unusual that inflation has not ticked up yet. Now, we have had a few drags on inflation, one being energy prices. Over the quarter, energy prices remained low, and a lot of energy companies did not perform well. So that's one reason that inflation has remained low. We haven't seen that percolate through the economy in forms of inflation. But one thing that has started just a little bit is wage inflation is starting to come up just a little bit. And that's a good thing. You would have thought that it would have been higher, though, when you're sitting at a 4.4% unemployment rate, what most people would consider to be full employment. And again, we're 8 years into an expansion. So that's unusual. This is unusual. So again, this is a tough time to allocate assets, where you think things are strangely not volatile. Inflation is low, but it should be higher. And valuations are full. So that's our challenge. So let's flip ahead and we'll start looking at how your assets are allocated and what the returns actually look like at the end of June. So in your reports, if you do have them pulled up, I can't refer to tabs, can I? No, but we're on page 8 of the full report. And this is the page that includes the pie charts. And the pie charts are here to show you broad asset allocation.
It's page 11 in the PDF.
Okay.
All right.
Is it 11? Okay.
11 in the PDF, 8 in your numbered document.
Okay, thank you.
Add 3.
Add 3. I'll see if I can do. Alina will try to keep me honest with my addition there. So here we have the actual allocation on the left and the target allocation on the right. This is your broad asset allocation. It's the number one determinant of your risk and return in your portfolio. And notably, you're very close to target. So that's a good thing. We don't want to make big strategic shifts away from your target. We set this policy target in our asset liability study with John Perone. Remember John was up here? We set that asset allocation target, and we're very close to it overall. So that's a good thing. One thing that I'll point out is that when you look at your exposure to stocks, you have domestic equity and international equity consisting of 68% of your money. So when the stock markets go up, you do well. When the stock markets go down, you're not going to do well. So we've got over 2/3 of our money in the stock market, and the stock market is the most volatile thing we invest in. Okay, so that's going to wag the dog here, and it explains why your performance has been quite strong. We have 11% targeted to real estate. We're just a little underweight that target right now, and we're hoping to make additional allocations to the REIF real estate fund in the coming months. This type of fund, they need to call the capital. It's not that you can just always add it like a mutual fund. So there's about $6 million outstanding that we want to move into the REIF fund when they're willing to bring the assets in. And then finally, we have about 22% targeted, well, it's exactly 22% targeted to fixed income. This is our flight to quality asset. So if the stock market goes down, this is the asset that's supposed to protect us. But we only have 22% in it. So we are definitely a pro-growth fund right now. Okay, so big picture, that's your broad asset allocation determined by our asset liability study, and we're really close to target. So that's a good thing. On page 9, we provide a little more detail, or this is page 12 for you, that we provide a little more detail on which managers we have within each asset category. The far left column is June 30 numbers, the far right is March 31. And then we have investment returns, how much money did we make in each fund and each asset class. And then net new investment, this is how much money is coming in and out of each individual investment. So at the bottom line here for the total fund, we started with about $468 million, and we ended with $483 million. So a pretty big increase, $18 million in investment returns, and then $3 million was withdrawn from the investment program to make benefit payments. You'll see in that net new investment column, there are a lot of numbers there. Most of the time when I meet with you, there aren't a ton of numbers here, but we, Stan, James, and with our assistants, we rebalanced the portfolio closer to target over the quarter. We had run up on the equity allocation, so we took some of the money down, reinvested into fixed income to go back to target. And on top of that, there was reshuffling based on all the work we've done over the past few quarters. Notably, we funded the InvestTech emerging market equity portfolio with $7 million. Our target to them is about $6 million more to that. So we'll be continuing to fund up the InvestTech emerging market equity portfolio. Also in the quarter, we worked on our domestic equity structure. Recall that we elected to defund Royce, Morgan Stanley, RS, and the Manager's Emerging Opportunities Fund. So in the quarter, those funds were liquidated, and we reallocated to the funds which we are keeping: the Fidelity Low Price Stock Fund, the Janus Enterprise Fund, the AB Small Cap Growth Fund, etc. We have a little more work to do in this area. In the upcoming quarter, Dodge and Cox and Janus will be liquidated. So that's a decision we made when we did the domestic equity structure. And the vast majority of the proceeds for these will be funding the State Street equal weighted S&P 500 non-lending fund.
Yes. That's a mouthful. That's a mouthful.
And a little bit more money will go into the S&P 500 index fund once we liquidate Dodge and Cox and Janus. So I think that's great that we streamlined the domestic equity structure. We have fewer managers, we have a higher allocation to passive, and we've also built out the international equity structure the way we want it. In the coming quarter, we're going to fund the T. Rowe Price International Small Cap Fund. That was the last fund you picked and approved. Was that just last meeting?
Mhm.
That was just a month ago?
That was 2
That was
months.
2 months ago.
Last meeting was State Street.
Oh, thank you, thank you. That was 2 months ago. That felt like a long time ago. So we're working on funding up the T. Rowe Price International Small Cap Fund. So a lot of money moved in over the quarter in the net new investment column. So I wanted to walk through that to make sure you knew what was going on. Do you have any questions? Okay. Let's flip ahead to page 11 or 14 in the attachment. And here we'll look at the bottom line about how the total fund returned for the quarter. So for the quarter, the total fund was up 3.94%, and our benchmark return was up 3.37%. So we outperformed by about 50 basis points in the quarter. Active managers did really well, and if you go across all of your asset classes outperformed their respective indices in the quarter. So that's an unusually good report card. I don't expect to come here and tell you that every quarter, but since I can today, I will. So for the quarter, pretty strong returns. For the last year, even stronger returns, up just shy of 16%, 15.89% net fee returns, and the benchmark is up 13.16. So again, the active managers did particularly well. This is not you overweighting, underweighting asset classes. This is the underlying managers who did well for you, in particular your domestic equity and international equity portfolios were strong. Over the last 3 years, we have a 5.3% return versus an index of 5.7. We had a particular trouble with some international equity managers. About 2 years ago, we made some changes there. If you go out to 5 years, we're at 9.5% return. Similar return over the 7-year time period, 9.6%. So very good absolute returns. Most recent time period, very good absolute and relative returns. I'll show you a couple charts that I think are illustrative for you. On page 14, we show the attribution chart. This is where we explain to you why did you outperform or underperform the way that you did.
17.
Oh, 17, thank you. So the big takeaway here is for the quarter, you outperformed by about 50 basis points. 28 basis points came from your domestic equity managers, 13 from your international equity managers. So they added value to the bottom line in that magnitude. Over the last year, on the next page, you see that domestic equity managers added 1.5%. The fixed income managers added about 80 basis points. International added about 50 basis points to get you to that 2.78%. alpha, if you will, over the benchmark return. The 5-year number is on page 16. And here our outperformance is 31 basis points. The domestic equity added 7 bips, fixed income added 22. Real estate was essentially flat, and international equity added a total of 6 basis points over that time period. So pretty good report card for active managers overall. And this is coming off of a time period, if you remember about a year and a half ago, we had 4 consecutive quarters where we underperformed because of the managers. So it just shows you that from time to time, we've got to be really patient and not overreact to short-term performance patterns, because over the long run, if you have good managers and you stick with them, they should be able to add value for you over the long run. Okay? On page 19, 22, thank you, Melina.
So,
That one, Pat. Yeah, there's, it's hitting the car coming right into my face. If you can, right here on this, yeah, if you can just.
Nope, other side.
Okay.
So on page 22, here we show the total funds performance relative to the index and also relative to other public funds. So these other public funds are a database that Callan collects. It's not just clients we work with, but it's also other public funds where we can get the data. And over the green dot is you. The little number next to the green dot is the ranking. And then the distribution, the bars are all of the other funds out there that we track. So you'll see for the quarter and the year, your ranking is very high. And notably, this is your fiscal year end, so when you do the Coons report and all of that stuff, these are the numbers you're going to be putting in there. Over longer time periods, you're ranking above average or at average. I think the 5, 7, or 10-year numbers, if you're in the upper third, I think that's a pretty good story overall. You don't want to be the number 1 over a 10-year time period, because it means you took on some form of risk that got you there. So overall, a pretty good story. This is a big snapback from the previous fiscal year. And look on page 24. So 24 of your document, 21 of my document. And this is a hallmark of this investment program, and we've talked about it over the years. We're long risk, and when the markets are up, we do well. The markets are down, we don't do well. And this is relative to other plans, right? So here on page 24 for you, 21 for me, anywhere the bars are high, you're ranking really well. When the bars are low, you're ranking poorly, right? So I bring this up just so that we know this is our bias. This is what we have built into this portfolio. It's worked out for us really well over the long run, but if we have a pronounced downturn in the stock market, we're going to look a lot more like fiscal year ended 2016, where we were in the bottom decile, as opposed to fiscal year 2017, we're in the top decile. Okay. Any questions about total fund performance?
yes.
Mine is, I don't know if it's a question, statement, whatever. I hear in your voice the caution that has been coming month after month, that maybe we should possibly have more money in fixed or not as much exposure to equities. And I guess I'm wondering when that, or if that caution voice puts on the brake and says, better do a little bit more putting money in the bank and not quite
Yeah.
so much in the markets.
Well, Part of my caution is I want to temper expectations going forward. But you came up with a strategic asset allocation, and I think you should stick with it for the long run. It'll work in the long run, but we're going to have shorter time periods where it's not going to work. So to me, that's the real message. We're sitting in an awesome place today, and we know the market will humble us at some point. What I would do from an action standpoint, though, is going forward, I would just continue to rebalance.
Yeah.
If the equity market, if you run up over target, take it back down and put it in bonds. So as opposed to letting it run, if you will.
Yeah.
In an oscillating, volatile market, rebalancing helps you a lot. It actually helps to bring down your volatility. In a trending market, it hurts. But if you anticipate volatility going forward, continuing to rebalance in a very disciplined way will help you out.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Yep. A couple notes about some investment managers. Vanguard, you have an investment in their index fund. They have a new CEO who's going to be taking over at the next quarter or so. I just bring it to your attention. You may have seen it in the news. We don't think it's an actionable item at all, but I just wanted to bring it up. No reason to put them on the watch list at all. Your Harbor Capital Appreciation Fund. This is a fund that is sub-advised by Janus. They are seeking to increase their permissible weight to technology. Notably, and they've got a huge technology weight, and that's worked out well for you because over the past little bit, technology has done so much better than traditional value-oriented stocks. But they're increasing that limit up to closer to 50%. We think that's getting to the point where it's, that's probably the limit that we, beyond that, we're probably not comfortable. Notably, the index is weird. It includes things like Visa as a technology company, and Visa's a huge position for them. So that's probably a little bit more of a mismatch. Visa really isn't a technology company as we think of technology, but that's just the way the index considers it. The Fidelity Low Price Stock Fund. Right now, you're in a share class, and there are two cheaper share classes we could consider for you. One, we think you could move to right away. The second is a brand new share class that was launched about 2 months ago. It's actually not a share class, it's a new fund that matches this fund. Once that fund becomes robust enough, large enough, where the transaction costs aren't too high for them to operate the fund, we're going to recommend that you move into that one because it's even cheaper than the one you're in today. Barings Core Property Fund, we talked about this at a previous meeting. This is your real estate fund. Their portfolio manager changed, and we're continuing to monitor that fund closely. If there's any fund on a watch list from my perspective right now in your lineup, it's that one. The other funds that we've previously been keeping an eye on, we have been satisfied with the changes in the performance and the stability of the organization, such as PIMCO, or we've decided to defund them, such as Morgan Stanley. So in my mind, when I look at your investment lineup, the one firm that I am most sensitive to right now is the Barings Real Estate Fund. So if and when we get to the point where we're recommending a change, we'll get back and let you know about that.
But you said there was one we could move to right now.
So the Fidelity Low Price Stock Fund, there's a cheaper share class.
Cheaper, yeah.
Yeah, and then there's another fund that will monitor to the point where we'll come and make a recommendation to move to that when it's large enough and viable enough for you to put your money into that fund.
The one that costs less, you are not recommending even though we could go right now.
Well, yeah, so right now, it was created about 2 months ago, and it literally has a couple $1 million in it.
Okay.
And so if you've got a fund with a couple $1 million to transact in it, the transaction costs,
Yeah, I do.
other people coming in or out of it, it's not an efficient vehicle yet. But given the size of Fidelity, the amount of money they have in Fidelity low price stock, I think that's probably going to grow really quickly. There's no advantage for us to be a first mover in that. But once it gets large, that vehicle gets large enough for you to put your money into, then we'll let you know and have you make the change. So that's kind of the high-level comments. I'd be glad to talk about any individual managers or flip through or look at the asset classes if you want. But overall, it's a very good report card from a performance perspective. Any other questions here?
Did you have?
I did, no.
Okay,
Okay.
great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you both.
Sure. We also have the July flash report. Do you have that on your laptops too? And July is largely a continuation of what we saw in the second quarter. Assets ended at $493 million, up from $483. You had about $9.5 million in investment gains. International equity, in particular, did well. It was up about 3.5% for the quarter, and which contributed to about $5 million in gains by itself. Domestic equity contributed about $3.5 million and was up about a little under 2% for the quarter. We do have a couple stale numbers in this report. So a few of your funds don't report timely on a monthly basis. So we put together this report. It's the best estimate we can give to you based on the reporting we receive at any given time. So we expect these numbers to change a little bit in future months. But about 2% return for the month is the best estimate that we have right now.
Any questions or comments?
More, please.
Yeah, keep it up.
I wish.
Well, you asked.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Well, thank you for the
Okay.
good news.
Thank you. Okay, great.
Thanks for coming.
Good to see you all.
Yeah.
Okay, next on the agenda is a quarterly budget update. And this, who does that, Stan? You?
I'll take it, but defer any hard questions to Stan.
Okay.
So, trustees, you have the material. I'd be happy to answer the easy questions or ask Stan to address the hard questions.
Oh.
By way of an introduction, I guess I'll just say, this is the quarterly budget reporting. The last quarter of fiscal year 17 is represented here. I tend to focus on the year-to-date rather than just the quarter-to-quarter. So Schedule 1B and Schedule 2B. You can see that total administrative expenses for fiscal year 17 versus fiscal year 18 were up about 7.6%. I'm at the bottom of page 1 on Schedule 1B. And that was split over a couple of different areas. Personnel was up about $25,000. Administrative expenses were up about $24,000. And that, the largest factor there being the office expense. That's one-time expenditures for new workstations. Disability expenditures were up mainly because they were so low in the prior year. So that's the significant drivers there. The expenses are down significantly in technology as we expected. Overall, total expenses were up about $79,000. That number doesn't feel right.
The total.
Total MCERA expenses
Uh-huh.
difference doesn't feel right. The 13% feels right, but the 79,000 doesn't feel right. So,
Maybe should I defer to Stan?
Which page are you on here?
on the second page of Schedule 1B,
Over $2 million if you do the math.
200,000.
I'm sorry, 200,000.
Yeah. Total MCERA expenses. Yeah, there's a formula error there.
Okay.
So I think the percentage is probably right.
Yeah, so that probably didn't carry through or wasn't updated.
Yeah. Turning to budget to actual, Schedule 2B, we came in below our budgeted amount on administrative expenses by about $94,000 at the bottom of the first page of Schedule 2B. You see our total administrative expenses were $883 compared to a budget of $977. The savings, small amount of savings in personnel, a lot more savings versus budgeted in administrative. The largest factor there being the legal expense. Some pretty significant savings in board expense as well, which is both a good and bad thing. Just gonna let that one lie. Even though our disability expenditures were up versus the prior year, they were still well below budget. It's just, we build a budget based on what could happen in that area. Whatever happens, we have to pay it anyway, so. Total, we also came in under budget by a lot. We had some things in the budget. We had $295,000 in the budget for new manager fees in anticipation of potentially hiring new managers and paying direct fees, which we didn't actually do. So it's not really anything for us to crow about that, yay, we saved a lot of money. Just, we didn't spend that money, although we anticipated the possibilities. So.
Well, thank you. That, just to add a comment to that, we didn't have to go back and do a budget revision.
Didn't necessarily have to, but I felt it was prudent to do a budget revision as we know things are happening, where we encounter or expect to need more budget authority.
Right.
So.
Okay, well, thank you. And moving on to discussion and possible action regarding proposal for the Retirement Association website.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Trustees, you have a cover memo and a proposal from Vision Internet, the website provider for the county, whereby they could develop what's called a full subsite for the Retirement Association, where we have control over all design elements. We could have control over all design elements of our website, including URL and wireframe and templates and everything else. After the county migrated to this website, we had some discussion and I got some feedback from the board that we weren't really happy with this. I'm not really happy with what we have now. We could take some steps to try to improve what we have now, or we haven't done that because I wanted to get this information, put it before you first, decide, do we want to develop a full subsite of our own, or do we want to try to make what we have better? So I bring this to you without a recommendation of which way to go. I just want feedback from the board. What are your thoughts?
I'd like to see us do our own website. I have to figure out each time how to go where to find us. And if I'm having trouble, then I think that our members are having trouble. But my question to you, James, is vision what you think, if we chose to do our own, is vision capable of doing that? Is that where you would want to go, or would be better off going with someone else?
The county already has a contract with Vision Internet. We could come right in under that contract and not have to do any sort of search and background research and due diligence and all of that, RFP or any of that. We can just come in under that and avoid all of that time and effort in that phase. We could, I think there's the possibility that we could get this done for less money with a different vendor. We just have to weigh the pros and cons of the time and effort to do the search on our own and the expenditure of political capital with the county if we want to go and do our own thing versus the cost savings that we could realize. So,
Two questions. Am I correct in reading this that the additional cost would be $30,000 over a 5-year period? And then the second question is, and I don't know if this is maybe for you or for staff or both, but I'd be interested in hearing from you folks that are living this 5 days a week, what sort of input you're getting or feedback you're getting from members. Are they calling or sending you emails with complaints, or what's your experience?
So I've not heard any direct client feedback. I would have to look to Judy and others that actually answer the phone for what they're hearing. Judy, have we heard anything?
I can't say we've heard anything negative. The majority of our members are accessing our site purely to visit Member Direct and log into their member account, look at that information, look for forms, and that seems to be fairly easy. They're not necessarily looking for the board meeting information or information on investments. So it's, yeah. But there could be some changes done to the way we have it set up right now. We've been kind of on hold, waiting to see. Why spend a lot of staff time updating what we have and making it better if we're going to design something completely different? So, but as far as employees go, I think they're mostly concerned about Member Direct, being able to access their benefit information.
So, if I may, the first question was regarding the cost.
Yes.
Specifically, do I think it's worth it, or?
Well, I wanted to make sure that I had the number correct. It's about $30,000 over, above and beyond what we would otherwise spend.
That is correct.
Kathy?
Well, my comment was just, I don't have the feel for using the website, so I don't know the pros and cons of that. But when I saw the 30,000, I was surprised that it was that low. I mean, for developing a new website, which I have been through a few times, that was a reasonable price to me.
Okay, Sherry, did you have a?
Yeah,
it was
well,
Jeff.
I'll get mine.
Okay, I thought,
Yeah.
it was like I saw three
Yeah,
hands
yeah,
raised at the
Jeff,
same time.
yeah, Jeff.
Okay, Jeff.
So I want to be mindful of my role as counsel, not get into policy, but aside from the members finding access to it, I think that it's important for MCERA to separate itself from the county. It's not a department, it's not a county department, it's not governed by the Board of Supervisors. We have had occasional issues where, we wanted to hire an accountant, and so these issues come up from time to time, and I think it's important to give that some consideration as well.
Patrick?
So I was initially going to say before hearing that we should, I think that we should wait only because I know a lot of different departments have had complaints. People have complained to the Board of Supervisors about the website, and my understanding is that they are working on fixing a lot of those issues. I know some people contacting the office I work in have had difficulty with the changes made addressing it, but since this issue's been raised to the county administration, I think I'd be reluctant to jump into something without knowing what they're going to do and what IS is working on, especially because if we're going to remain a sub-site of the county page, we'll still have to work with IS, I'm assuming, as opposed to completely separating, and maybe that's what I'm not seeing here. This would still be part of the county server.
County IS, the IS department, has nothing to do with the county website any longer.
Okay.
That's all of the design elements and all of that work is done either in the executive office or by Vision Internet, their third-party provider.
Okay.
So it's been totally separated from IS. And they're not that involved in the website anymore. So it's a third-party application, or not an app. It's a third party doing all the development.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember, was there another issue? Oh, the county's design. I've not heard what's being done there. I know there are other entities that are doing sub-site development. The library, for one, I know is doing a sub-site. They have their own special needs for their things. So they're working in that direction as well. Did I miss something, or was there something else in your question?
If we just look at it from a cost basis, and we know it's $30,000 over 5 years to them, would we be billed by the county if we stayed with their? Could we make a comparison of what it would cost not to move compared to what it will cost to move?
I don't believe we're being billed by the county, Stan, correct? Other than our normal service level agreement with the county for support specific to IT, or IS, sorry. I don't think there's a separate line item for a website. So the $30,000 would be a marginal cost to the association for our own sub-site, where we have full control over all the design elements. It would be, we could retain some of the look like the county, or we could go completely away from that and do our own thing. The wireframes, the headers, everything can be different if we do our own sub-site.
So we've struggled with the website, but like Pat said, there are some workarounds, and it does seem to be getting a little better. I'm kind of torn on this as far as what direction to go. I almost feel like we maybe need to wait a little bit and see if this becomes any more user-friendly than it is. I do agree though with what Jeff's saying, where we do want to make it different, but they are tied together. So I would probably prefer to wait to let staff continue maybe to try to work with this. I mean, I don't know if they've done that or not. If they really are you concerned about the hours that they would put in? Is that? I think the site. I think the site is good. I like the site as far as to me it looks nice. It looks professional. The $20,000. It didn't seem. I was kind of surprised actually it was that low too. I thought maybe it would be higher. The yearly fees are very reasonable after that, but. I just don't know if we are seeing everything in this yet that it can do. And the one thing that I do struggle with is where it's an affiliated department.
Yeah.
It's kind of like off to the side. It's hard to find things when you want to go to it. The fact that you go into Mendocino County Employees Retirement and you go to the county, I would like it to go straight to Mendocino County Employees Retirement, but I'm not so sure that that's not possible. I don't know. But I just think that this is relatively new and it got rolled out quick. Everybody was dealing with cannabis, so I don't even know how this thing got rolled out. And I mean, really, the time that everybody was spending on it, so I think it may be to our benefit to spend a couple more months with this and see if there's anything that we want it to do that we can get for free.
I'd like to comment, there's no free lunch. Somewhere in the CEO's office, all this money is being allocated, the charges are being allocated. And we do get an 87 cost if we can isolate what they're paying the contract to manage this and set it up and figure out what we're getting charged for. Then you can take your 29 grand over 5 years and
Do we know
look
that?
at it better. Because I think having an independent website, an independent agency, you just put it in and it's there instead of going through this machination that people go through now.
It is somewhat cumbersome.
Yeah.
When I go onto our county website probably every day, and when I look, I have to, I have to be quick to select the retirement section, because otherwise it'll put me into a whole nother website. And it is, like, if it's frustrating for me, I'm sure it's frustrating for other people. Patrick?
So I have a question here too, because in terms of splitting off from the county page, what Jeff's talking about, if we're gonna have our own site, I think this proposal, looking through it, is for a sub-site, meaning that we are keeping our affiliation with the county, we are writing sort of on the back of their contracts, so we're not really splitting, so I'm wondering if that's accomplishing what Jeff was talking about, if we're still affiliated with the county as a sub-site, are we getting enough differentiation to make a distinction and make this worth our while?
So to speak to that, what the sub-site means is that we're basically writing on the county's contract, but then we have full control over all the design elements. So if we want to keep some of the artwork, we can. If we want different artwork, we can. One of the main things is the headers at the top. If you're on the county's sub-site, you have no control over those headers. You have no control over the wire template or the template of your website. If we go to a sub-site, we have control over, we can change all of those things. We can have different headers. Instead of being forced to, our header is government, business, whatever is on the county's header right now. And it's got the county of Mendocino, California up there. We can have it, instead of saying County of Mendocino, we can have it Mendocino County Employees Retirement Association. We can bring in our logo, which we're working towards going live with. A number of things like that. The menus on the left side, we can't actually nest those so that you can have a board information, and then there's a pop out. We don't get that option with the county's template. We could have that in our own template so that we have more flexibility in how users access our site and the information. So sub-site to me just means we're writing on the county's contract. We don't have to do our own contract, but we get full control over every design element, including URL, which I think would be helpful, because that's what drives a lot of the search. You know, if someone searches for Mendocino County Employees Retirement Association, where are they being directed? Now they're being directed to the county's homepage. So
That's the distinction for me.
Yeah.
Would you go to the county and then you have to go to MCERA, or do you get to MCERA first?
Okay.
Richard, did you have another comment? Did you have?
That was basically the
Oh.
question of, and I was going through that exercise right here.
Little one. When I searched MCERA real quickly over the weekend, it says not available. MCERA is the, so people don't always know to put in the full
And MCERA could also mean Marin or Merced, so we have to do, yeah, that's. Also, I can say is that this is still, there's a lot of stuff going on with this still. I mean, that's the only comment. This is not as good as it's gonna get, I don't think. But I do agree with what everybody's saying as far as keeping it separate, and the fact that if you search Mendocino County Employees Retirement, you should go straight there and not to the county and you're an affiliated department. You should go straight there.
Great.
Are there any immediate issues that would prevent us or cause additional problems if we waited, as Sherry's suggesting, a month or 2 or 3 or whatever it is to see how it plays out, or are we just kind of kicking the can down the...
I can make arguments both ways. To me, it feels, I come down more on the side of we're probably just kicking the can down the road. If we want to continue going down this road that we've been moving down, a little bit less dependent on the county, a little bit more separation, this is another opportunity for us to step down that road. And I think there are some potentially compelling reasons for us to do that. When the information was transitioned from the old website to the new website, the people doing all that work decided, oh, you don't need anything prior to 2016 on your website. Well, your website shouldn't be an information repository. Yes, it should. It absolutely should for us. We need to have all of our historical documents on that website. It's part of being transparent about who we are, what we are, what we do. Now, we can go in there and repost all those things, like agendas and packets prior to 2016, board meeting materials. Those aren't on the website anymore. We haven't done that, again, because that's going to involve a significant amount of staff time to move all that thing to the new website. And then if we end up going to a sub-site anyway, we've just wasted all that time. So we can wait, but I don't see a lot of value in waiting. It's the design flaws, and I'll use that word very loosely, from our perspective, aren't going to go away. That header bar is going to stay what it is. Getting to the Retirement Association, you're still going to have to go through the county, I think. I don't see any way that that's going to go away.
Would it be possible for you to bring back some other possible vendors besides Vision so that we could do a comparison of what we would be getting if we went completely separate from the county as opposed to going with being a sub-site?
We can do that.
I mean,
We can do that.
Is that implying, though, that we're now going down this road, we're going to be looking at RFPs and potentially, a substantially more expensive proposition? Right now, we're talking 30,000.
It would be more.
It could be less, depending on, how much, our website doesn't need to be really fancy. We don't have e-commerce. We don't accept any kind of donation or money over our website, right? We don't have inventory tracking. None of that. Those are the things that add a lot of cost to a website. You have to have a database integration. We don't have that. All we have is pages, and we have PDF documents. Those aren't expensive in terms of a website development. It's possible that we could get this done cheaper because of those things.
How much cheaper?
I don't know.
That's the thing. It doesn't feel like it can be that much cheaper than 20,000 to get it go in. I mean, the 10,000 really is just cost each year. I mean, I think that's very reasonable, the 2,000.
Right.
And I just have one thing to add. I'm surprised that you guys had a problem. I have 5 years of investment holdings on my website. All that got moved over for me. I didn't have to do anything. So I'm not sure why you guys only got back to 2016. But,
We're the stepchild.
well, and there you go again. Is that why it needs to be separate? Because you want to be making those calls yourself. Yeah.
I mean, we can go back in there and move all those things over, but we have to do it manually.
Yes, I didn't. I had 5 years of investment holdings that went over to my website, and just because I said I want that moved, and they moved it. So it was like, yeah.
I was just gonna say that I think I would like to see other proposals only because in my personal experience, I've seen web development, not for a sub-site, but for a full site, where it seems like for something comparable to what we're doing, you can get it built for less and also maintained for a lower amount. I mean, I'm not really quite sure I even follow why it's that high if we are just a sub-site being housed on the same server. It strikes me, just from what I've seen, as being a little high, so I would love to see other numbers. But
The one-time fee high or the annual, the first year?
well, I've seen websites built for less. It seems that are comparable to what if we're talking about posting PDFs and just having links, and then the hosting fee. I guess I'm not quite sure I understand what comes with this, because it seems like we could probably get that chopped in half just from what I've seen in my own personal experience. So that's something I'd be curious to know about.
It's so Nora gave me some information. She found a website that kind of gave a calculator of what does it cost to build a website, to have a website built. And I didn't know the answers to some of it. I was playing around with it very early this morning. Didn't know the answers to some of the questions, so I kind of guessed. But I mean, it could be as much as half of the cost that we're seeing here as a possibility. I simply don't know. I don't have a good sense of the answer right now. If we're going to go down that road, that's just, it's a decision that we have to make, and we can certainly do some investigation, dedicate some hours to that, bring back some information for the board to consider in the future.
I'm very mindful of the recommendation that Jeff gave us about being separate. So I saw us do this kind of thing over an investment group that lost and lost and lost and lost, and we continued to drag along. Our legal counsel has said we should have a separate website, and I think we shouldn't just lost and lost and lost. That's all.
So should we give direction to staff to go out for RFP?
Oh, I just had a question. You were saying old information didn't get transferred over beyond 2016?
Board meeting materials.
Oh, okay. 'Cause the other things go back to, I see, 2007, 8 for...
Right. Right.
Okay, just the board meeting?
I had to go in and add more
Okay.
information.
To me, it feels like an RFP is a little too much.
Okay.
Yeah, too much at this point to go through those efforts. That's a whole, probably dedicating a team, a committee to get into the middle of all that, and it seems a little much.
So,
I can bring back some additional information at a future board meeting for us to consider. Kind of stick my thumb in the wind and see what options are out there, what other associations have spent developing their own websites, and and bring back a firmer recommendation based on what I'm hearing today.
And just one more thing, you said the library is going to be separate and maybe reach out to the
I've talked to
library, to talk to Karen, okay. And are they having the same proposal that we're having?
Theirs was actually less expensive because they were having their subsite developed as part of the original website development. So they got a cost break.
And what,
We didn't.
and can you say what they're, do you know at this point what they're paying?
I believe their development cost was $12,000. So.
I also have a question for you about the member direct. That would be a database configuration, right, or no?
It is a database, but that's all on LRS's website. So
Okay.
all that we have on our site is a link to the
Yeah.
LRS site.
Okay.
So we don't have to do any database integration there with our site. So.
Okay. So, anybody else have any ideas about what we should be doing?
Just one other thing, when you're bringing all this back, will you address what it is that we are paying through A87? What are we paying right now for this? Because, so these, like year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, to me, those seem very reasonable for a website, to maintain that website for years 2 through 5. But if there are other costs that we're being hit by the county, then, which you're saying there may or may not be, I don't know, but it would be interesting to know exactly what is this costing us.
Okay.
So, the costs that we're incurring right now that from the county would be probably indirect, right? AB 87 costs.
Yes, I'm not aware of any direct costs that we're paying.
Yes, so it would just be.
And lumped in with
Yeah.
everything else in the
Yes.
A87, but that can be broke out.
Okay.
Yeah,
Do
and
you-
they have a formula of how they can figure
Audit,
it out.
right.
Yeah.
Percentage,
So,
whatever, yeah.
It has to do with square footage too, and it's very complicated.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, it'll probably be not very much difference whether they provide that for what they're providing now, or if we choose something else.
Okay. Do you have the direction? Conduct additional research, including current costs paid by the association, and bring back a recommendation to the board. How's that?
That's
Okay.
good.
So for the short term, if you go to our homepage and you hit on 3 dots at the top right, you can select, put that site on your homepage. So when you turn on your computer, it will be there. Currently, our MCERA button icon takes you to the county website. I just put one on here that takes you to our website.
One thing we've also done in terms of URL is we asked the county for a shortcut, if you will. If you put in mendocinocounty.org/retirement, that jumps you to the MCERA homepage on the county's website, which has actually got a lot of other stuff between .org and retirement. Affiliated agencies, blah, something else. But that /retirement, mendocinocounty.org/retirement, jumps you right to our homepage. So that's what we're giving to clients as our website, is that, because it's easier. So it's just a shortcut, but, okay.
Okay, shall we move on to next agenda item is the retirement administrator report, or is there any other input on the website? No, okay, moving on.
Thank you, Madam Chair. 4 items on the report included there. Strategic planning offsite rapidly approaching. Thank you to all of you that met with me and had our discussions. I am still awaiting StrengthsFinder results from 5 of you at the table.
Would you be one of them?
I misplaced the book for a while. I'm to the point where I have to take the online.
Yes,
Oh,
okay.
I have a
I'll get that
question.
done
It's done, I just gotta give it to you.
Okay.
Where can we, is there, if we want to buy more of the books, because it's a great book, and, you know, friends, relatives, coworkers, we're just on
Amazon,
Amazon.
that's what we
you
do.
did?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah. Yes,
Okay,
I
thank you.
should own stock, as many as I have purchased or had purchased over the years.
Oh.
So please get me those as quickly as you can. You have to send it to me. I don't get it automatically, so there was some confusion about that.
Do we get like a file from?
Yes, they'll send you can, I think you can download a PDF. I don't know if it does it automatically, if it emails it to you, but you can either have it sent to me from the StrengthsFinder website, or you can download the PDF and send me that through your own email, whatever works. And we'll be working through some of that during the offsite. And no one has an excuse, because our newest trustee has already done it.
She's an overachiever.
About a month ago, just haven't sent it along.
So,
So thrilled to be here.
Are we gonna have some questions on that, or you wanna do it to the end? Oh.
it's at the chair's pleasure.
Well, let's go ahead, and what would you prefer?
Let me run through this real quick,
Okay.
and then I'd be happy to take questions. Elections are coming up. Deadline for candidate filing is September 1st. So as a reminder, the active general member seat, currently filled by Vice Chair Cavness, and the retiree seat by Secretary Knudsen, and the alternate retired seat filled by Mr. Shoemaker, are all up for election this year. Board of Retirement appointments by the Board of Supervisors. There are 2 appointments up this year. The seats currently filled by Ms. Harris and Supervisor Jurdy. And we have notified the Board of Supervisors that those terms are coming. Kings Court, starting tomorrow, as soon as tomorrow, the parking lot work will begin. We're gonna have to do a budget revision for this.
Bizarre.
Yeah, so, anyway, that is what it is. One other thing that I didn't put on here, but Judy reminded me yesterday I should mention, the SACRS conference in November is in San Francisco this year. As soon as they announced the hotel, we went out and grabbed a bunch of rooms.
It's not really in San Francisco.
Is it Burlingame?
Burlingame, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's
Right by the
not
San
San
Francisco.
Francisco.
Is it right by
Just
the
saying.
In
San
the Bay
Francisco airport?
Area.
Yeah, it's conveniently located by the airport.
Yeah.
Yeah, San Francisco for the country mice.
Anyway, we should have enough rooms for anyone that wants to go. If you are interested, please let Judy know. The agenda's not available yet, but please let Judy know if you're interested.
They usually have some very interesting speakers, so that's one of the things that is
Yes.
exciting. So I think we're just about finalized on speakers.
Good.
Kathy?
So what is SACRS, and is this one that a new trustee should go to?
SACRS is the State Association of County Retirement Systems.
Okay.
It's, all of the conferences are good for trustees at every level. There's always good learning opportunities. This is not the, what's the one called for new trustees? Is it
And you're going
Principles
He's
of
going-
Principles of Trust of Pension
Pension
Management?
management.
Something like that.
What's that? I mean, when's that?
That's Stanford.
It's in 2 weeks. They switched it
That's
to
a heavy duty
Pepperdine.
one. That's a good one to go
Pepper,
to.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Been to?
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Is that,
And they
is
only
that the,
offer-
that's the second one you're going to, right?
it's the first one.
Oh, you're going to the
Yeah.
first one, okay.
And they only offer that once or
Oh,
twice a year.
Yeah, so it won't be up again until next
So
year.
Yeah.
who sponsors that?
That's a Calibers.
Calipers.
Yeah.
It's good.
That was,
What's
yeah.
That's okay.
heavy
The
duty.
SACRS conference is the only conference that's all and only 37 X systems.
Okay. Which I didn't know much about.
And then there's also Callan, the people that were here, they have a conference once a year in San Francisco in January. It's pretty much on investments, but it's also on economics and really interesting. There's some great conferences with this, so.
Also, the SACRS conference, you get to meet a lot of people from all the other retirement associations, the 20 retirement associations, and you can network, and it's interesting to
Yeah.
talk to.
And you get exposed to stuff like disabilities and other things that you don't get at other conferences, so.
Yeah.
Judy, was there anything else I was supposed to mention as part of my report? Okay. I'd be happy to answer questions, Madam Chair.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions about strategic planning offsite meeting?
So Hill House instead of Heritage House?
Yes.
Okay. And are we gonna carpool or anything? Or is everybody just driving separately? Is there been any conversations on that? No?
I have not directed any conversations there.
Okay, just checking.
Be happy to facilitate those if anyone's interested. So.
Any other concerns or questions? Okay.
Would they have member reports at all, or comments before we go into our disability, or?
Okay, the next is general member discussion. Does anybody have any items?
I just wanted to take this opportunity to say what an incredible new addition we have in Kathy. I was able to work with her, maybe not my full tenure on the College Foundation Board, but enough to be able to genuinely crestfallen when she went out of Mendocino College and on up to Ripley College. Kathy really is a perfect board member to sit in this position, and she's also a delight to work with, so I wanted to personally say how happy I am to have her here. Thank you.
And I second that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
How about if we take about a 10-minute break?
Could I hold this for 1 second?
Yes.
We're still on the
Oh,
general membership
oh,
comment.
yeah.
I received an email totally separate, and this was in reference to CalPERS, but it's an issue that's kind of crept up on the corners here occasionally, and it's this topic of investment divestment, which is a topic that I feel fairly strongly about, and not in favor of it. I don't know if this has come up at SACRS at all.
Yeah.
And I don't know, if this is maybe an agenda item for the next board meeting, but I'd like to throw it out to the board now or later that maybe we have a discussion about where that is going. The information I had was very generic, but that there might be some legislation being contemplated at the state level, which might force us to do certain things. I'd like to find out what that might look like and have a discussion at the board level about whether we want to support something like that or oppose it either on our own or through SACRS or some other venue. So I'll throw that out.
So do we want to?
Can I?
Yes.
I would love to see us talk about this because we certainly went through it with CalSTRS. And when you have a board meeting and you're packed with students who are coming in saying, we need to divest from, that's a real slippery slope. And we had to stop it cold turkey before we get the next group in. So it's a good discussion, but it might even be something that we could talk about at the offsite. I don't know if that would be appropriate, but.
I'm totally open to, to the venue. It makes no difference to me. I'm just concerned about it now because, I'm getting this sense that there might be something afoot at the state level, which I think from my perspective, I would look to oppose. But
Jeff?
So I've heard this issue come up from time to time over the years, and there's a tension between fiduciary duty and that. And I'd also question whether the California legislature passing a law would be challenged because of Prop 162, because it would take the plenary authority away from retirement board. So I think there might be a legal issue there.
Sure.
I haven't even heard about that, but that's what comes to mind for me.
Sure.
And I had to deal with this probably, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, socially responsible investing for the treasury pool. And it went on for probably a couple of years where I was having to deal with that and kind of, I feel like I was able to justify all the things that I was investing in. But it is, I agree, it is a slippery slope once you start going, okay, we're not going to do this, we're going to do that. And so mine was very minimal as far as some of the things that I wouldn't invest in, but there was a lot of interest in it at the time. And I'm surprised actually that it didn't come here, because right about that time is when we had San Francisco County Board of Supervisors tell their, I think it was San Francisco? I think it was San Francisco Board of Supervisors told, what is their, no, they don't, because they're not 1930s. Are they
They're
No, they're
city
not.
county combined.
Yeah,
So
they're
what,
not
okay,
1937.
so there was a, I thought it was a 1930s, or I don't,
Alameda County Commission?
and maybe it wasn't even a 1937 act, it may have been the San Francisco Board of Supervisors who, maybe it was, they told CalPERS or something, or they tried to do something and they said, you can't do anything, you can't, we don't want you investing in this. And and that's right about the time that I was having a lot of interactions on that subject of socially responsible investing. So I think it is a good topic, especially if it's coming up again, so.
Richard?
Would that be something you'd talk about at SACRs?
Yeah, we get a monthly legislative update, and I could bring that to our next board meeting, and we could put it on the agenda if that's your pleasure for the next board meeting, and discuss it possibly at the retreat.
I'd like to do that, particularly, as I said, if in fact, the information or the impression that I have that it's in play,
Yeah.
somewhere else, I think we need to.
I think the League of California Cities will be taking an official position against that. There was a discussion at one of their committee workshops about 2 months ago. So, and there was almost unanimous in the room. It's like, well, at least on city managers, don't mess with this.
So,
Thank you.
what is your pleasure? What's the pleasure of the board to?
How about direction to staff to bring this back at the appropriate time?
At the appropriate time. That's a good one.
Broad scope, right?
At 10:30.
So is that agreeable with everyone?
Yes.
Okay.
If I may, Madam Chair, the discussion reminded me of another issue I wanted to query the board about. With the off-site being September 13th and 20th, we have our board, 13th and 14th, I'm sorry.
Sorry, get worried here.
I know you get a dog sitter.
13th and 14th. We have our regularly scheduled board meeting in September on the 20th. The last time we did an offsite, we ended up canceling the board meeting because we just didn't have a lot to talk about.
Okay.
Does the board have any thoughts? If we knew ahead of time that we might want to do that, we could put the few little business items that we need to cover on the agenda during the offsite and cover those, and then not have our regularly scheduled September board meeting. I just want to get the temperature of the board. I know last time there was some hue and cry over canceling a regularly scheduled board meeting, but I think that
Comply
was,
with the Brown Act, discussing it away from.
it'll still be a publicly noticed
It's still
meeting.
Brown Act,
So,
I think that would be efficient,
That makes
as long as
sense.
it's properly noticed, et cetera.
Makes sense.
I would like, we're already dedicating a lot of time for
Okay.
those 2 days, so.
All right, then we will,
Public comment.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and is there any public comment at this time? All right, then we can go on a 10-minute break and get back at 10:05. Does that work for everybody?
And we'll go into closed session.
Yes.
When do you act for holiday directive?
We will ask legal counsel to report out.
The board voted unanimously to approve a service-connected disability retirement for Michael Davis.
Okay,
We're open. What is the procedure, rationale, whatever, on missing meetings? I think Lee has missed 3.
If it was Rotary,
Yeah.
if it was Rotary, it'd be gone.
Oh, right.
I don't know that there is anything specific in the bylaws or the 37 Act about missing meetings. I'd have to look to legal counsel.
So I don't think there's anything specific, and it's interesting because this is a board appointee, but all board members have a fiduciary duty, and so, you know, there's a tension between not being at the meetings and satisfying your fiduciary obligations. So I don't know if you want me to go further. I suppose that the board could theoretically, I'm not saying in this particular case, if they felt that there was an issue. And I don't know that any of our policies speak to it. That's what I was going to go try to find right now. There may be something in one of our policies, but I suppose theoretically a board could take some formal action through a censure or, you know, make a comment to the board of supervisors. But I would hope that there would be some, you know, like any kind of like a personnel matter. There's some discussions with the trustee to see what's going on and to let them know about any concerns that the board might have.
James, do you have any idea? You haven't been informed ahead of time?
I'm trying to think. One of the meetings that Mr. Parker missed, there was a miscommunication. We sent the email out, but didn't include both of his email addresses. For the external trustees, you have 2. We only included his county email address, so we didn't actually get the notice of the meeting ahead of time. Don't know what happened today.
He contacted me regarding the dates of the offsite. I was concerned that he had some travel plans around that time, wanted to make sure he wasn't going to miss that.
So he's a good board member. I really like
Yes.
it.
So I have a question about that. If a board member can't attend a meeting and notifies beforehand and asks to be excused, that's different from somebody just not showing up, right?
I know it is on board of supervisors.
Yeah.
If they miss 3 unexcused, their code section says they're booted unless
But
they
yeah.
went through that process.
But if they're excused, it's a different situation. So
I'm not sure that we have a similar process here. I'm fairly confident that there's nothing for the removal of a trustee for missing meetings. Typically, you know, folks that are going to miss, let us know. Sometimes it's months in advance. Occasionally, it's I get a 2 a.m. email.
I'm hopping on a plane.
Yeah.
No, it's usually things went really bad overnight, so I'm not making it tomorrow. Sorry. Not calling anyone out there, Craig. That's definitely a good excuse. So, but yes, we always encourage trustees to let us know if they're not going to be there, and I will let the chair know as soon as I know if someone's not going to make it. So
that's kind of protocol. So I'm, yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
2 issues. One, I forgot to bring up during our general discussion. I used to get an electronic copy of the Public Retirement Journal, and I'd forward to James, and he'd send it on to all of you. I haven't gotten it for a couple of months. I was going to find out why, but does anybody not care if they don't get it? If you sometimes it has more to do with CalPERS than it has to 37X, but it reports on things that are happening in Sacramento that affect retirement issues. So if I can get it sent again, I can forward it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I look at it, I don't always read it, I at least look at what's in there when you send it to me.
Right.
And there have been times I've read the entire thing. There have been times I've looked at, nope, not interested in that article or that one, nope, not gonna read it. But there are times that I do read the
I'll see
entire
if
thing.
I can get it sent again. And then the other little issue.
Jim, I enjoy it as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know why it stopped coming. The other one, there's a bill that was kind of working its way through SACRS that dealing with missing members that will allow the alternate retiree member to vote if two other members are, do you know where that's going?
That's enacted.
This one?
It's enacted. It passed
is?
last
Okay.
year. It's enacted now, yes.
And what two board members have to be missing?
It's two of the, so if the retiree representative is present, but two of the elected members are absent. So in our case, that would be Catherine, Patrick, and Craig.
Okay.
Then the alternate retiree could vote.
I'm looking out for you.
We've not encountered that situation.
I was just gonna say, nobody misses except me. And leaves.
Okay. Anything else that we would like to discuss? Otherwise, would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay, meeting is adjourned.
Good job, Catherine. Yay, look at
Thank you.
that.
Now that we're
Helping me.
done,